Hello, my name is Kelly Alvarez, and I am the English Learner Consultant for the Michigan Department of Education. This session, titled Temporary Guidance for Identifying Potential English Learners During Remote Learning, has been created to support districts that are providing instruction at a distance due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The guidance referenced in this presentation is only valid when in-person assessment is not possible. Each local education agency, or LEA, will use their own protocols and procedures to determine if in-person assessment is possible. This determination may be different from that of in-person instruction, as the assessments could be completed by appointment on a one-on-one basis. This guidance has been created to support LEAs to identify potential ELs and to place them in appropriate services while learning remotely. As a reminder, all LEAs must continue to require the use of the MDE-approved home language survey questions as the first step to identifying potential English learners. When in-person instruction is not possible, LEAs should create a communication plan that provides consistent communication to all families in languages that they can understand. As a reminder, there are students in districts that have parents that are more fluent in one language, in another language, even though their children are not ELs. It is important to know the preferred language of each family and to provide communication to that family in their preferred language. This is absolutely essential during remote learning to ensure that all families have access to the resources that the LEA is providing. LEAs should be proactive and intentional in communicating with multilingual communities. It's not sufficient to send out a generic email or automated call without following up to ensure that families receive the message and that it was understood. Also, LEAs must provide information to families in their preferred language and have clear outreach strategies that include connecting with multilingual, multicultural families and community organizations through bilingual staff, community elders, and planned calling trees. Refer to the MDE website at www.michigan.gov/MDE-EL for more information about the translation of communications for families. In addition, all LEAs must provide direct instruction for all ELs in English language development. This instruction is not the same as English language arts. English language arts hones in on the art of writing and deepens the understanding of reading. ELD instruction deepens students' understanding of the English language and its uses. This support is crucial for ELs to appropriately develop the academic levels of English necessary to participate fully in Michigan schools. Finally, all LEAs must provide meaningful access to the core area instruction through the use of effective EL-focused instructional strategies and scaffolds. All content teachers should work to include appropriate scaffolds and language-specific instructional methodologies to ensure that students are able to comprehend and participate meaningfully in content instruction. The civil rights requirements are clear. All LEAs must support ELs to meaningfully participate in general education classrooms and to learn English. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits discrimination based on race, color, or national origin. It was later clarified in a memorandum from the Office of Civil Rights in 1970 that required LEAs to provide EL programming to any student whose primary language or primary home language is not English and who has not yet reached proficiency in English. This includes students who are English learners and who may be identified with a disability. There are a variety of steps that LEAs must follow when making a possible determination of EL status when in-person assessment is not possible. The WIDA screener and the kindergarten WAPT assessments are unable to be given virtually. If possible, LEAs should make in-person assessments the first choice. If the LEA has determined that in-person assessment is not safe, then the following steps should be followed. All steps must be completed within 14 calendar days of enrollment or 30 calendar days from the beginning of the school year. Step 1 is to complete the home language survey. Step 2, conduct a phone family interview. And during that phone family interview individual students to determine the areas of strength and opportunities in English. Step 3, document and begin providing EL services. And step 4, formally identify the student as EL in MSDS. Note, Appendix A in the document has been created to support LEAs to maintain clear documentation and tracking of the adapted process for EL identification. The following slides will delve into steps in more detail. Step 1. All LEAs are required to include the Home Language Survey, HLS, in the initial registration packets for all students. The required questions for the Home HLS are listed here for the ease of reference. Once families read and respond to these 2 questions on the HLS, the LEA reviews the responses. Any affirmative responses to either question will require the LEA to continue investigating. Students that are transferring from a Michigan school may have already been identified as EL by another LEA. Once the student has been claimed in MSDS, the receiving LEA can see the student's history and will be able to see if the student has already been formally identified as an EL. In any case, once there is an affirmative response in the home language survey, the LEA should continue to step 2. Step 2 includes the family interview. This is a crucial component to identifying the supports that will best meet the needs of the student. The conversation with the parents is the first part of the process. During the conversation, the LEA representative should confirm the responses on the home language survey and discuss the benefits of participating in the EL program of services remotely. This conversation should happen with an interpreter, if necessary, in the preferred language of the parents. As a note, supplemental funding sources may not be used for these interpretation services. We will dig a little deeper into the family interview parts in parts 3 and 4 of the family interview on the next slide. Continuing in step 2, the LEA representative talks with the parents about the EL program of supports and answers any questions that the parents may have. Now it's time to interview each child separately. We recommend using a tool like the one from Great City Schools, the sample questionnaire, for this purpose. As a reminder, LEAs may not use the WIDA screener nor the kindergarten WAPT remotely. The goal is to classify the students into 2 large categories. Category 1 students are those that are new to English or that may have intermediate levels of proficiency in English. Category 1 students will be identified as EL in MSDS, and further screening will not be necessary when in-person assessment is possible. Category 2 students are those that clearly have a higher level of proficiency in English. They are students that may test proficient on the WIDA screener or kindergarten WAPT. During remote instruction, these students should also be coded as EL in MSDS and should begin receiving services. Category 2 students will need to take the kindergarten WAPT or WIDA screener when in-person assessment is possible. If the results of the appropriate in-person screener demonstrate that the student, in fact, does not qualify for EL identification, the LEA should plan to apply for the false EL designation for the student in December when WIDA test exception window opens in the OEA secure site. Great City Schools has created this questionnaire that can be completed remotely. For grades K-5, use section B of the questionnaire. The images on the screen give an idea as to how the questionnaire is modeled. Any student scoring in the beginning or intermediate levels will be classified as category 1. Only students meeting the expectations for the advanced response level will be classified in category 2. The category 2 students will need to take the full kindergarten WAPT or WIDA screener when in-person assessment is possible. For grades 6 through 12, please use section C of the questionnaire. Similarly to the example from the previous slide, students obtaining proficiency levels at the beginning or intermediate levels should be classified in category 1. Only students that receive advanced on section C should move on to section D, writing. If the student meets the expectations for advanced response in writing, then they should be classified as category 2. If the student does not meet the advanced response in writing, they classify them as category 1, even though they met the advanced response for section C. Only students meeting the level of advanced response for section C and D should be classified as category 2 and should be further assessed using the appropriate screening tool once in-person assessment is possible. As a reminder, all parents or guardians have the right to waive or refuse participation in the EL program at any time by providing written notice of this intent. Email or text messages are acceptable modes for parents or guardians to provide such written notice to opt out of EL programming during the remote virtual learning period, and the documentation is stored in the student's CA60. As a reminder, the parent or guardian may re-enroll the child in the program at any time. The opt-out procedure for the EL programming is an annual process. However, regardless of the parent waiving the right to have their child enrolled in programming or receive services, the student will still be reported as an EL in MSDS and must continue to take the annual WIDA Access for ELLs test until meeting the criteria to formally exit the program. Continuing on with our steps, in step 3, we need to document everything. Within the guidance document, please find Appendix A. The document has been created as a checklist and documentation tool to support districts in keeping clear documentation regarding the process used to identify the students as EL and to document the supports the student is receiving. As a reminder, the LEA has just 30 calendar days from the first day of enrollment to complete the identification process. If the student comes after the beginning of the school year, then the LEA must complete the process in 14 calendar days. Step 4. During the last step of the process in step 4, the pupil accountant identifies the students as English learners by reporting them with the English learner component via student record maintenance or in one of the, which is SRM, or in one of the general collections. On this slide, we show the 3 different ways that students that are transferring in may be identified. In the first column, the student is transferring from a Michigan school. In the middle column, the student is transferring from another school, state, or territory. And in the far column, the student is transferring from another country. These 3 scenarios are outlined clearly in the guidance document. All 3 circumstances require MSDS identification of EL status, a family interview to determine the needs of the family and students, and confirmation that the information on the home language survey is correct. Here are a few links to the guidance that Michigan Department of Education and its partners have developed for LEAs teaching at a distance. Within 14 calendar days of enrollment, or 30 days from the beginning of the school year, parents or guardians must be notified in writing when a student is enrolled in EL programming. When LEAs initially enroll a student in the EL program, they should utilize the EL annual parent notification letter that each LEA has prepared. For more information regarding parent notification letters, visit our website at www.michigan.gov/MDE-EL. The parent notification letter must be sent home in a language and format accessible to the parent or guardian. The notification informs the parent or guardian that the student has been enrolled in an EL program. Additionally, the letter informs the parent or guardian that they have the right to visit the program and request a conference to understand the program, as well as the right to waive the participation in the EL program. The LEA must also take this opportunity to include additional information, including the description of the purpose of the EL program model, and the content of the program. These typical notification letters may need to be edited to reflect the unique aspects that learning remotely entails. As always, there are multiple people in which you can, and places in which you can seek support. You can always contact me, Kelly Alvarez, and there is my contact information. If you have questions about Screener and how to complete a WIDA Screener or WIDA related questions, contact Jen Paul. If you have students that are migratory or questions regarding Title I-C funding, you can contact Michelle Matson. And you can also contact Michelle Williams, who is our Special Populations Unit Manager. We'd like to thank you so much for watching this recording. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you.